Well, hello everybody. How have y'all been? This is Danny from Deep South Homestead on our porch talk today. Guys, it has been very pleasant the last couple of days here at Deep South. We've woke up a couple of mornings in a row with temperatures in the 60s. That is like almost unheard of in the Deep South in mid-August. The days, there's been some breezes blowing, and now don't get me wrong, the heat index during the day still gets up about 103 to 105 if you're out in the sun. But it feels, I was mowing and I got to looking, and the pine straw has already fell from the trees. Because I kept noticing, what's all this pine straw doing on the ground? And I looked at the pine forest that I have on my property here, and you see brown all up in the pine trees. The needles are just falling on the ground everywhere. Guys, that's mid-September stuff here in the Deep South. And Wanda and I were working over at Deep South, and we were talking about the feeling that's in the air. The leaves we were doing some painting, and the leaves were falling so fast it was like crazy. And it's not because we don't have any moisture, because it's raining every 2 to 3 days here. Now, it's not the kind of rain that'll put water in a pond, because our ponds keep getting lower and lower. But it's the kind of rain that just waters a garden real good. It's a good afternoon little shower. And I told her, I said, Wanda, something is definitely different. I can't tell you exactly what it is. I said, but even like today, this is a Sunday evening, I'm shooting this. All morning and all day, it has not been really, really hot. I think the high has been 92 is the high today. And it's like there's a different feel in the air. It's almost like fall is here. And I know that sounds crazy for mid-August, but it sure feels different. Okra, all of a sudden, overnight, went from being green to shriveled up and brown. I'm talking about, guys, I pick okra every other day. And 4 days ago, or let's say 6 days ago, the okra was dark green, still just, well, not dark green, but light green, the color that it normally is. And I'll look at it, to see what it looks like, trying to dry and all that kind of stuff. Well, I came back in 2 days to pick it again, and I was picking the 20-foot of row that I normally pick. There's still another 150 feet of row to go. And I walked down through there, and I always look to see if there's any fresh okra on the tops of it or anything, little young pods that's still tender. That's growing on the ones that I'm saving for seed. Well, I learned a lesson. That don't happen. If you're saving seeds with okra and you're letting the okra turn to seed on the plants, the little okra pods that come on top of it, they turn hard really fast. So that was out of the thing. But then I got to looking. In a 2-day period, the okra went from being green to brown and dried up. So I grabbed my bucket and I went to cutting okra for seeds. Got a whole 3-gallon bucket full. Came back this morning. Wanda and I went up there to just look. Picked another 3-gallon bucket full, and there's still just bucketfuls left on the plants. It hasn't completely turned yet. Every 2 days, okra's going from green to brown in 2 days. And I say brown, I'm talking about it is dry. Now, I'm a little on the cautious side. I'm letting it dry a little more after I cut it off the stalk. I'm spreading it out on a big giant, ventilation table to let it go through the drying process. But these are unnatural things that are happening for this time of the year. And at the rapid rate in which they're happening, it's probably not so much that it's happening, it's the speed in which it's happening. We were looking at our sweet potatoes. Usually 125 days you dig your sweet potatoes. I checked at 60 days on some, 90 on the others. I couldn't tell any difference in one from the other. They were both big old giant big potatoes. Guys, I checked them at one point and they were little bitty potatoes. 2 weeks later, they're already big old giant big potatoes. I don't understand why they grow as fast as they did. Mr. Tim was here one day. He and I were sitting outside talking, and we kept hearing this slow squeaking, cracking noise. And Tim said, "Has somebody got firecrackers going?" I told him, I said, "Tim, I don't think that's what it was. I think there's a tree broke and fell, because it lasted for a pretty good while." I said, "We need to jump on the Ranger and let's run around, because it come back in the direction where my cows was at." I said, "It may be a tree on the fence." Well, we rode around. We finally found it. A big limb up on top of one of my pecan trees out by my big garden had broke and fell and was hanging up in the tree up there. It reached all the way to the ground from the top of that pecan tree up there. And I said, I can't get that down. That's a widowmaker there. You mess around and get hurt with that thing. Well, guys, it fell yesterday afternoon. It just come on down to the ground. Took my fences, took everything with it when it went down. And I had to spend yesterday evening fixing all that. Well, I didn't pay too much attention to it until I went back this morning to pick the okra up there early, about daylight. I walked over and looked, and that tree was loaded with pecans. The weight of those pecans on that tree literally broke that big limb out of the top of that pecan tree up there. And of course, now I have a lot of pecan wood for firewood, but I also lost several 5-gallon buckets of pecans off of this tree. But the pecans are already getting big and maturing. They don't usually fall till, let's say, October, mid-October, and these are already filling out. So something's going on. Something's going on. Now, I don't know why a lot of you subscribers are sending me emails and messages and stuff like that talking about how different things are where y'all live. A lot of people sending me emails talking about how the leaves are changing where you're at already. Wanda and I was looking in Wyoming, I believe it was. They're already having 30-something degree weather with snow up in Wyoming, killing all their crops and everything. And lots of people telling me up in the Carolinas, northern Tennessee, across the central plains in the country here, talking about, man, it's already, we're waking up in the morning to 50 degrees, and it only gets up to like 70 during the day. Yay, in the middle of summer. These cold fronts are already starting. So, what's happening? Well, I think only time's going to give us the answer to this scenario. I think we're going to have to wait it out and just see as to what is actually going on. Now, do I believe that time is changing? Yes, I do believe time is changing. I really do. I believe the earth is... I read some geological statements. This has been many years ago, after we had a massive earthquake hit, and they talked about how one of the tecton plates had rose up and slid and went up under one of the other tecton plates, and how that, believe it or not, it actually changed the circumference of the earth and made it smaller, which meant that it was now turning a little bit faster than what it normally would, which meant that the day would get a little bit shorter and time would advance. And back then I was like, I don't know about that, But now I'm sitting here looking back, and I'm seeing how things are almost a month ahead, at least 3 weeks ahead of what they should be. And I'm like, is the earth really spinning faster? Is this really happening? Because I keep records of everything. I keep records of every day of my life. What goes on in my life, what I see, what kind of weather we're having, the temperatures, rain, whatever. I keep records of all that stuff. And this year has definitely been a different year. Now, as far as God is concerned, what does all this mean? Well, trust me when I tell you, it's not taking him by surprise, okay? He's the creator of this earth, and everything that we're experiencing now is cyclical, Because if you go back and you have the access to be able to find actually true documentation, not just what you find on the internet, because internet is governed by AI now, and about a little over 50% of it's not even real anymore. So if you have access to this information and you can actually pull up and look, these things have happened many times before on the earth. So what we're experiencing may not have happened in our lifetime, our parents' lifetime, our grandparents' lifetime, or maybe even their parents' lifetime, but it has happened before, and it has been documented. And we do have documentation of these kind of things happening, and it kind of gives us a little bit of a better idea about what we may be fixing to face in the future and how people will react, because we do have records about those kinds of things. Not if it's not from our country, it's from other countries that has been around a whole lot longer than we have. So, what does it mean for God's people to live through a time like this? Well, I have sought the Lord about this. I've prayed about it. I was like, Lord, where do we go from here? I mean, what do we do? How do we do it? What does all this mean? And I was kind of surprised at what the Lord laid on my heart for this. And it's quite simple. He made the statement, through Scripture, he led me through Scripture. Come out from among her, my people, and be separate. That's what I always used to just read that part and stop. But I kept on reading. And it says that you may not be partakers of her plagues. Now that right there was my first inkling to the eye-opener that I actually experienced. I've been trying to come out of this system, I guess, for the last 25, 30 years. And was at one point pretty much, if you could say out of a system, I was pretty much out of it at the time, but now I'm new YouTube, and never dreamed this would even happen to me, and I'm full forced into the system now. So I'm trying my best to back out in as many ways as I possibly can. Now, I don't own a cell phone. I haven't had a cell phone. I'm now in probably going on 3, maybe 4 years now. I haven't had a cell phone. And it doesn't mean anything. I'm just trying to say, I spent over 50 years of my life without a cell phone. I've traveled all over the country and the world and everything without a phone, and with nothing but the old, I don't know if y'all remember or not, but the old Rand McNally maps. I traveled the country all over it with just a map. Most people today couldn't read a map if they had to, but I traveled everywhere with just a map. No cell phone. If you broke down, you just broke down, and you did the best you could do, and didn't think anything about it. Now people panic if they don't know what's going on every second of the day with their phones. And I've tried to make a purpose in my heart to say, Lord, I have lived 50-something years of my life without a phone. I'm going to continue to try to live without a phone. And so far, I've done fairly well at it. Now, Wanda does have a phone, and occasionally, I don't like talking on a phone, but I will talk to some of my friends who actually call and need to know something or need to tell me something. I don't mind talking on the phone like that. But what I'm saying is I'm trying to little by little back out of the system that is entangling us. I don't watch TV. That's been the greatest waster of time that there ever was. So I don't watch TV no more, mainly because it's all propaganda, and it's not accurate to start with. And even if you watch a lot of social media, AI now runs about 50% of it. A lot of it's bots and stuff like that not even people involved in it. Most of it's just AI generated bots. So I don't put a lot of stock in what I see on the internet either. I would rather talk to someone, you know, personally, either through a Zoom meeting or sit in a conference or, you know, face to face, something like that, so that I can hear it. So as the old expression goes, straight from the horse's mouth. So I'm trying to come out from among her, but that last part is what really nailed it down for me and made me say, you know what? I really need to hunker down on this thing. And that is not being able not to have to partake of her plagues, because you see, she's going to have a lot of plagues that's going to come up against her. We've already experienced one in 2020, and the scriptures tells us that if we come out of her system and don't partake in her system, then God's already promised us, the living God has, that we have a protection from her plagues if we're trying not to be a part of her. So, in my opinion, that's what I need to do. I need to try to get out of this system as much as possible. We have tried to liquidate as much as we can to, you know, any debt that we owed. We're trying to get rid of as much of that as possible. We've paid off most every debt that we have. I think I still have a couple of little bills that I need to get paid for. And once I have them out of the way, you know, I'm back pretty much being debt free. And, you know, and I've been trying to pay attention to what the living God says in His Word about indebtedness. You know, it's a sin to be in debt. And I sit back here and I'm like, Lord, how did we get here? Well, we got here by being a part of her system. And now we need to get out of that system. We need to determine what do we need to do to get ourselves out of that system. Because you see, it's going to come down to a point where she's going to have total, and I'm using the word she, I mean it's a hypothetical word there. She's going to have control over you. I mean, stop and think about it. And people go, well, I'll never take the mark of the beast. You know, well, will you or will you not? I mean, if they look at you and tell you, I'm just going to throw some hypothetical situations out there now. Let's just use, wink, wink. Let's just use some hypothetical situations here. If you don't accept the mark, then you will not be able to buy any groceries. Your Social Security check will be cut off. Your Medicaid will go away. Your Medicare will go away. No police protection. No water. They'll cut your water rights off. Cut your sewage rights off. You won't be able to buy any gas. You won't be able to get a driver's license. You won't be able to do any of these things if you don't comply and take the mark. Now, what are you going to do? If you're a younger person and you've got kids at home and those kids are getting hungry, and you didn't make a wise enough decision when you were getting started off to get yourself a piece of land and that's big enough to grow enough food on to support your family, that is key number one. Is when you look for a piece of property, get a piece big enough that you can raise enough food to be able to feed your family. Because in Revelation, we've already talked about this on here before, the scripture teaches us a measure of wheat for a penny, which means a penny, not a penny, a denarius, which is equivalent to about a penny. What that simply means is that is a statement that means it will take a day's wages to buy enough food to feed you for one meal. Now, in order to get to that point, this country will have had to have been through some plagues of some kind, whether it's drought, famine, pestilence, whatever, natural disasters, flooding, atmospheric rivers, mud rivers, whatever, all these type things. we will have had to have been through something, whether it, or maybe even biological warfare has happened somewhere or something. Well, what was the verse I just quoted? Come out from among her, my people, and be ye separate, that you may not have to partake of her plagues. So, if you're sitting here and you're trying to stay out of the system and these plagues hit and you are facing famine and starvation and all this type of stuff, God says, the living God says you won't have to partake of those plagues. In other words, you'll be protected through those plagues if you're doing your absolute best to get out of her system and not be a partaker of it. That's where Wanda and I are at right now. We are sitting down trying to figure out what we've got to do to be able to get out of her system and not have to be a partaker of the plagues that she's going to face. And guys, this country, and not only this country but the world, is going to be facing several plagues. I mean, there's new viruses. There's a new herpes virus out there. There's this earthquake that happened over in Russia. That's only the beginning. You're fixing to see a whole lot more of those in the ring of fire. It's going to be 8 and some of them even be 9. The New Madrid fault line is having hundreds of earthquakes every day. They're expecting a 9-point-something earthquake in the New Madrid, and if that happens, only God knows what's going to happen if that happens, you know. But then they're watching the coast plates off the coast of Central America down there. If those plates ever shift, you're talking about a lot of your islands will just be gone. Haiti, even down as far as Peru, all down through there. You know, you're talking about a tsunami that'll just wipe out everything. Take human life and everything with it. So, come out from among her. I mean, can you do that? I mean, we live in a modern day society. Is it possible in our society today to actually come out from among her and be separate? I mean, stop and think about it. The Amish are pretty much doing that today. Do we have what it takes to live that type of lifestyle? The Amish have something on us that I don't know if we could ever achieve it again. And that is, they get along with each other. And most of the world today, family members can't even get along with each other. Mothers and fathers and sons and daughters and grandmas and grandpas can't even get along with each other in their own family, much less somebody else. I mean, stop and think about that. The Bible tells us in these last days that we're living in, men will be lovers of themselves, to be lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, unthankful, unholy, unruly, disobedient to parents. I mean, guys, we're in that. There's 21 things mentioned there. We're in that right now. And now we've got President Trump over there. He's promoting all these peace deals over there in the Middle East, bringing countries together that ain't been able to get along for decades. Could it be we're at the cusp of the point of this thing? Could it be that we're there? If you look in the book of Revelation, I mean, and you actually started looking, guys, we're at the opening of the 6th seal. If that's the case, we're fixing to be halfway there. I mean, stop and look at what's going on. Everybody goes, well, I go to the grocery store and there's still plenty of food there. No, there's not plenty of food there. I have spoken with grocery store managers, produce producers, all this kind of stuff. Guys, they're about to pull their hair out to keep food on the shelves, and they're switching it around and doing it in marketing in such a way that it looks like nothing is actually missing. And when in reality, where you used to have 6 varieties of something, you're down to maybe 3 or 4 varieties now. And they fix the shelving in the stores where it looks like there's still plenty of food on them. And it's nothing but a marketing scheme. They've made the packages smaller. They've raised the prices up more. I mean, guys, it's here. I mean, it is here. People are saying, oh, I've been all over the country. I see cornfields everywhere. There's tons of corn. There is tons of corn. I will give you that. But it's genetically modified corn. It's not for human consumption. It's for ethanol, making fuel and animal feed or whatever else you want to make out of it. But it's not for human consumption. That's where we're at. And I'm telling you, it is not looking good. It is actually, produce is dwindling faster than you can even think about. I talked to, I don't even know how many people, email me, people talking back and forth on the live streams, talking about, I can't get this to grow, I can't get that to grow. Guys, I'm a seasoned veteran gardener, been doing this for 50 years of my life, and I can't even get butter beans to come up hardly anymore. Cucumbers don't want to come up no more. I mean, tomato plants, you get them up and they die on you. Squash plants, we just lucked out this year and let the grass take them over, and actually they did better. I mean, everything is changing. Literally, everything's changing. The insects are getting to be just unruly. And unless you're willing to spray some kind of chemicals on your plants, you can't hardly harvest anything. I'm telling you. We normally get 30 to 40 gallons of figs off of one of our trees over at Deep South. This year, we probably didn't get 10 gallons off of both our big trees together. The stuff just is not producing. Now, some things are doing great. Sweet potatoes are doing great. My corn did great. My okra's doing great. My peanuts would have done great if the grass hadn't took them over. Butter beans are just now beginning to put on and start growing. They're doing good. Once we finally planted 3 times and got enough of them up to say, hey, they're worth fooling with. But guys, it has not been an easy challenge, not been an easy thing to get food up and get it going. These farmers have been struggling to get their crops up and then keep these derechos and hailstorms and all this kind of stuff from tearing up the food that they have planted. And what is this? What is this that's happening? Go over in Deuteronomy and look up, Google it, just Google it and say blessings of obedience and curses for disobedience. And it'll take you to Deuteronomy. It's going to be the latter part of the book right there, around chapter 30, 28 to 30, somewhere in that area right there. And you're going to be able to read about the blessings of obedience and the curses for disobedience. And start reading. You got just a few of them for obedience, but when it comes to disobedience, you just got a whole chapter of stuff there to read about. Read about it, and then look at the United States and ask yourself the question, are we facing any of this stuff? And then you determine whether we're blessed or whether we're cursed. And see where we fit at on that. And then make a decision. Come out of her. Go ahead right now and begin working on a network of people that you can get along with, that's close enough to you that you ain't got to go a long way, because you may not be able to go a long way here in the near future. You may have to, when the hammer drops, you might have to just deal with people that's within walking distance of your home, or within, a very short distance to be able to maybe trade or barter with or something like that. I mean, start working on that network now. Go ahead and start changing your palate, your tongue, your taste. Go ahead and start changing your taste right now, because you're going to come to a point really soon you're not going to be able to get the kind of food that you want. So today is just some things I wanted y'all to think about and take them to heart and pray and ask the Lord, Lord, what would you have me to do during these times we're about to face? Thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.